The average family spends over $500 yearly on water, but the Amish spend nothing. They figured out centuries ago how to turn rain into drinking water using materials anyone can find. No electric bills attached, no treatment plants needed. Just the methods that work in any weather, any season. Rain falls on a barn roof. Most people see water running off into puddles. The Amish see liquid gold they refuse to waste. Every drop that touches their massive barn roofs gets captured, guided, and stored for the family's needs. No pumps, no electric bills, just gravity and good planning. Their roofs aren't ordinary. A typical Amish barn stretches over 1,000 square feet, sometimes double that size. When 1 inch of rain falls, that single roof collects more than 600 gallons of water. One decent rainstorm can fill enough containers to keep a family drinking, cooking, and cleaning for weeks. Meanwhile, some people pay $50 a month for city water that tastes like a swimming pool. The system starts with gutters, but forget those flimsy plastic ones from the hardware store. Amish craftsmen shape wooden troughs or hammer together metal channels that last decades. These gutters run along every edge of the roof, tilted just enough so water flows without needing any help. Gravity does all the heavy lifting, pulling water down through downspouts into whatever's waiting below. Barrels line up like soldiers beneath those downspouts. Some families use old whiskey barrels. Others prefer modern food-grade drums. The fancier setups connect directly to underground cisterns that can hold thousands of gallons. The principle stays simple. Roof catches rain, gutters guide it, containers hold it. The Amish know exactly how much water their roofs can harvest. They calculate based on roof size and average rainfall in their region. A family with a 2,000 square foot roof in Pennsylvania might collect 1,200 gallons from that same 1-inch storm. Over a typical rainy season, that adds up to tens of thousands of gallons. All free, all pure from the sky. The angle of those gutters matters more than you'd think. Too flat and water sits there breeding mosquitoes. Too steep and it rushes past the barrels before they fill. Amish builders eyeball it perfectly after years of practice. They know that a 1/4-inch drop per 10 feet keeps things flowing smooth without waste. Wood gutters require maintenance. Every fall, someone climbs up to clear leaves and patch any cracks with pine tar. Metal gutters rust eventually, so they get replaced section by section rather than all at once. If only marriage worked the same way. Just replace the rusty parts and keep going. The community doesn't view this as a chore. It's insurance against dry spells and independence from systems they'd rather not rely on. Some Amish farms have multiple buildings, each with its own gutter system feeding different storage areas. The barn roof fills the livestock water. The house roof supplies drinking and cooking needs. The workshop roof might fill a separate barrel used only for washing tools. Everything has its place and purpose, designed so nothing from the sky goes to waste. This isn't survival mode or some back-to-basics experiment. It's practical engineering that's worked for generations. When drought hits and neighbors watch their wells run low, Amish families check their cistern levels and adjust usage accordingly. They learned long ago that depending on rain means respecting every gallon it provides. The beauty hides in the simplicity. No instruction manuals, no customer service hotlines. Just roofs doing what roofs do and smart placement of gutters turning natural weather into stored resources. But here's the thing about rainwater fresh off a roof. It's not exactly clean yet, and what happens in those first few minutes of rainfall makes all the difference. That first burst of rainwater hitting a roof carries everything you don't want in your drinking glass. Bird droppings accumulated over dry weeks, dust that settled during calm weather, tree pollen stuck to shingles, dead bugs that chose the roof as their final resting place. When rain starts, all of that washes straight down. The Amish don't let this contaminated runoff mix with their drinking supply. They divert it completely using systems so simple you'll wonder why more people don't copy them. This isn't paranoia, just common sense that keeps families healthy. The most basic setup uses a wooden channel with a hinged flap. When rain begins, dirty water flows down the downspout and gets redirected through a separate channel away from storage barrels. The contaminated water dumps onto gardens or drainage areas. After the roof gets properly rinsed, maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the storm, someone flips that wooden flap. Now, the clean water flows into storage where it belongs. Some families use a floating ball mechanism inside a diversion pipe. Empty, the ball sits at the bottom and dirty water exits through a side hole. As the chamber fills, the ball rises and eventually plugs that exit. From that point forward, water flows up and over into the main storage system. Once the rain stops, they drain the diversion chamber and reset everything for next time. Probably the hardest working ball since bowling leagues got popular in the 70s. Others keep it even simpler by running that first flush into a separate small barrel disconnected from the drinking supply. After each storm, they dump that barrel's contents into the garden. Tomatoes and beans love it. The minerals and organic matter actually help plants thrive while the family's drinking water stays protected. How much water needs diverting depends on roof size and how long since the last rain. After a dry month in summer, the first 20 gallons might carry serious contamination. After yesterday's rainstorm, maybe only 5 gallons need dumping. Many Amish families just follow a simple rule: divert the first 10 minutes of any storm regardless. Better safe than sorry when children are drinking that water. Trenches work too. Some farmers dig shallow channels that catch downspout water and direct it away from storage areas during the storm's beginning. These trenches lead to gravel pits that help water soak into the ground rather than pooling. Low tech, zero maintenance, and you can dig one in an afternoon with nothing but a shovel. The really important part is discipline. Storm clouds gather and someone heads outside to flip the diverter every single time. No exceptions. Because the one time you skip it might be the one time contaminated water makes someone sick. Testing shows that first flush runoff can contain bacteria levels hundreds of times higher than water collected after the roof rinse is clean. E. coli, salmonella, and other nasties that nobody wants. Though it does make you appreciate modern plumbing when you think about it. This diversion step costs almost nothing, yet dramatically improves water safety before filtering or treating even begins. Different communities have different diversion designs, but the principle stays identical. Keep the dirty stuff out so you're only storing the good stuff. Once that contaminated first flush goes elsewhere, the clean rainwater flows into its holding area. That's where the real storage begins, and the Amish have developed ways to keep thousands of gallons fresh and ready underground. The only product we'll ever promote on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime that are impossible to find elsewhere. We decided to promote his book because we are the last generation able to share these techniques and superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be a shame to see this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods to survive crises disappear. You can also find a book about herbal remedies from Nicole Apelian on their store. If you're watching this on TV, you can look up our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. Digging a hole in the ground might sound like punishment, but for the Amish, it's the foundation of year-round water security. These aren't shallow pits or temporary solutions. We're talking about massive underground chambers that can hold enough water to supply an entire household through the driest summer months. The work starts in late fall or early spring when the ground cooperates. Families gather, shovels in hand, and begin excavating. The hole needs to go deep, sometimes 8 to 10 feet down, and wide enough to store several hundred gallons at minimum. Larger families dig cisterns that hold 1,000 gallons or more. It's backbreaking labor that takes days, but nobody complains because everyone knows what's at stake. Once the hole reaches the right depth, the real craftsmanship begins. Stonemasons line the walls with carefully fitted rocks, each one placed to create a watertight seal. The stones interlock like a three-dimensional puzzle. Gaps get filled with a mixture of clay and lime that hardens over time. Some communities use poured concrete instead, but traditional stone cisterns remain popular because they last generations without cracking. The underground location does more than just hide the cistern from view. Soil acts as natural insulation, keeping water temperatures steady year-round. Summer heat bakes the surface, but 10 feet down the temperature barely budges. Water stays cool, usually between 50 to 60 degrees, which stops algae from turning the cistern into a green soup. Algae grows faster than gossip at a church picnic, so keeping it cool matters. Winter presents the opposite problem. Above-ground barrels freeze solid when temperatures drop. Underground cisterns stay liquid because Earth retains enough warmth to prevent freezing, even when January winds howl across frozen fields. This means families have access to water every single day of the year without worrying about cracked containers or ice blocking their supply. The cistern needs a proper lid, usually made from thick wooden planks or a concrete slab. This keeps out leaves, animals, and curious children who might lean too far over the edge. Small access hatches allow for cleaning and water removal, but these stay locked or weighted down when not in use. Safety isn't optional when you're dealing with a deep hole full of water. Getting water out requires either a hand pump installed directly over the cistern or a rope and bucket system. The bucket method works perfectly fine. Lower it down, let it fill, haul it back up. Simple. A good rope lasts years if you keep it dry between uses. Hand pumps cost more up front but make daily water collection faster, especially for families with many mouths to feed. Maintenance happens once or twice a year. Someone climbs down a ladder to scrub the walls and remove any sediment that's settled at the bottom. At least it's cooler down there than mowing the lawn in August. The cleaning process takes a few hours but ensures water stays fresh and safe. Most families schedule this task for spring. After winter, runoff fills the cistern completely. Cisterns work because they turn rainfall from a temporary event into a permanent resource. Rain might fall for an hour, but that water sits underground ready for use 6 months later. The Amish learned centuries ago that storing water properly meant surviving droughts that dried up shallow wells and streams. Some families connect multiple downspouts to a single cistern, maximizing collection from every roof on the property. Others build separate cisterns for different purposes, one for drinking water, another for washing and livestock. The flexibility of the system adapts to each family's unique needs and property layout. The investment of time and muscle pays off year after year. While neighbors worry about well levels dropping during dry spells, Amish families check their cisterns and know exactly how much reserve they have. It's peace of mind carved into the earth itself. But even the cleanest cistern water eventually needs somewhere more accessible for daily use, and that's where another old tradition comes in. Oak and pine barrels dot Amish properties like oversized chess pieces, each one holding 40 to 50 gallons of rainwater ready for immediate use. These aren't decorative. They're working containers that bridge the gap between massive underground storage and the kitchen bucket that fills the drinking pitcher. The wood choice matters tremendously. Oak resists rot better than most other woods and adds a subtle flavor that actually improves water taste. Pine costs less and still lasts years if maintained properly. Some families prefer one, some the other, but both work reliably when treated right. The key is getting barrels that were properly constructed with tight staves and solid metal bands holding everything together. New wooden barrels need preparation before holding drinking water. The inside gets charred with controlled fire, blackening the wood surface. This charring process does something remarkable. It kills bacteria naturally and creates a layer that filters out impurities. Turns out burning things on purpose is useful, unlike that time someone tried to clear brush on a windy day. The charcoal effect purifies water as it sits, pulling out odd tastes and odors that might otherwise linger. Barrels sit on wooden stands that keep them elevated off the ground. This prevents bottom rot and makes filling cups or pots easier since gravity helps water flow from the spigot installed near the base. Most families position barrels near the kitchen door for convenience. Nobody wants to haul water farther than necessary, especially in winter when paths turn icy. Each barrel gets filled from the cistern or directly from roof runoff after the first flush diverts away. The water level drops throughout the week as the family uses it for cooking, drinking, and washing vegetables. When it runs low, someone makes a trip to refill it. This constant rotation keeps water from sitting stagnant for months. Fresh water in, used water out, barrel never goes empty or ancient. The wood itself contributes to water quality in ways plastic never could. Tannins from oak have mild antimicrobial properties. They won't purify sewage into champagne, but they do help suppress bacterial growth between cleanings. The Amish noticed generations ago that water stored in wooden barrels stayed fresher longer than water in metal containers that rusted or clay pots that cracked. Managing multiple barrels spreads risk. One barrel might develop a leak or crack. No problem, you've got 3 more. This redundancy ensures the family never runs completely dry while repairs happen. It also lets them separate water by quality. The best barrel holds drinking water, another handles cooking, a third manages washing water that doesn't need to be quite as pristine. Maintenance involves scrubbing the inside every few months with a stiff brush to remove any buildup. Some families use a mixture of vinegar and water as a natural cleaner. Others just use elbow grease and clean water. The metal bands need checking too, since rust weakens them over time. Replacing a band costs little, but prevents catastrophic barrel failure that dumps 50 gallons across the yard. Barrels last decades if cared for properly. Many Amish families use the same barrels their grandparents used. The wood darkens with age, the staves settle into their permanent positions, and the barrel becomes more reliable rather than less. Modern plastic drums might seem more practical, but they crack in cold weather and leach chemicals nobody wants in their drinking water. The beauty of barrel storage is its flexibility. Need to move water to a different location? Roll the barrel. Want to take water to a community gathering? Load a barrel on the wagon. Try doing that with an underground cistern. The barrels serve as both storage and transport, adapting to whatever situation arises. Water sitting in barrels at perfect room temperature needs one more consideration, though, because even the cleanest rainwater can carry invisible threats that wood alone can't eliminate. A folded piece of linen stands between clean water and a mouthful of dead mosquitoes. The Amish have used cloth straining for so long that most families keep dedicated filtering cloths hanging in the kitchen, ready to work at a moment's notice. This method costs practically nothing, requires zero electricity, and removes visible contaminants instantly. The cloth of choice is usually linen or tightly woven cotton. Flour sacks work perfectly since they're already designed to hold fine particles. Some families use old bed sheets that have worn soft over the years. The weave needs to be tight enough to catch debris, but loose enough that water passes through without taking all afternoon. Double or triple layering increases filtering power when dealing with particularly dirty water. The process couldn't be simpler. Stretch the cloth over a clean bucket or pot. Secure it with string, a rubber band, or just hold it in place with one hand. Pour water from the storage barrel through the cloth and watch it drip into the container below. Twigs float on top of the cloth. Dead insects get trapped in the fibers. Bits of leaf and roof debris stay caught while clear water passes through. Water that looked questionable going in looks drastically better coming out. The difference is visible immediately. What started as slightly cloudy liquid with floating particles becomes clear enough to see the bottom of the container, though if you see something moving down there, you might want to strain it again. This visual improvement matters because people trust what they can see, and clear water looks safe even if invisible bacteria still lurk. The beauty of cloth straining is its reusability. After filtering, rinse the cloth in clean water to remove trapped debris. Hang it to dry in the sun, which also helps kill any bacteria that made it into the fabric. Once dry, fold it and store it for next use. A single piece of cloth lasts years with proper care. Some families pass down filtering cloths through generations, though eventually the fabric wears thin and needs replacing. Multiple layers catch more contaminants, but slow the filtering process considerably. A single layer might let water through in minutes. Triple layering could take an hour to filter a few gallons. The Amish balance speed against thoroughness based on water quality and immediate need. Cooking water that will be boiled anyway gets a quick single-layer strain. Drinking water receives the full triple-layer treatment. The cloth develops a natural effectiveness over time. Repeated use actually improves filtering ability as tiny particles lodge in the weave, creating an even finer mesh. Brand new cloth works fine, but a well-used filtering cloth that's been properly maintained catches smaller particles than when it was fresh. The fabric essentially seasons itself through use. Different water sources need different straining approaches. Rainwater collected after a good first flush diversion might only need a quick pass through single-layer cloth. Water scooped from a cistern that hasn't been cleaned recently deserves triple layering and patience. Kind of like judging how long to stay at a family reunion based on who shows up. Experience teaches which situations call for extra caution. Cloth straining handles the visible problems, but misses the invisible ones. Bacteria, viruses, and dissolved chemicals pass right through fabric like it isn't even there. The Amish know this limitation well. Cloth straining is always step one, never the final step. It prepares water for more thorough treatment that eliminates threats too small to see. But sometimes the most effective purification method is also the oldest one humans ever discovered. Heavy iron kettles sit on wood stoves in Amish kitchens, and when water inside reaches a rolling boil, something remarkable happens. Every bacterium dies. Every virus gets destroyed. Parasites that could cause weeks of misery get eliminated in minutes. Heat does what no filter can. It makes water absolutely safe to drink. The science behind boiling is straightforward. Most dangerous microorganisms can't survive temperatures above 160 degrees. Boiling water reaches 212 degrees at sea level. That's not just hot enough, it's overkill. A full rolling boil maintained for just 1 minute kills everything harmful, even kills the enthusiasm of anyone watching the pot, which apparently never boils when you stare at it. Amish families boil water in batches throughout the day. Morning sees kettles heating for tea and coffee. Midday brings another round for cooking vegetables and making soup. Evening means more boiling for washing dishes and preparing drinking water for the next day. The wood stove stays lit anyway for cooking and heating, so boiling water adds no extra cost or effort beyond filling the kettle. The kettles themselves are built to last lifetimes. Cast iron conducts heat evenly and withstands daily use without warping or cracking. Some families own kettles that are 50 or 60 years old, still working perfectly. The only maintenance needed is occasional scrubbing to remove mineral deposits that build up from repeated boiling. A little vinegar dissolves these deposits without damaging the iron. Boiled water tastes flat because heating drives out dissolved oxygen. The Amish fix this by pouring the cooled water back and forth between two containers several times. This reintroduces air and restores a fresher taste. Some families skip this step for cooking water since it's getting mixed with other ingredients anyway. Drinking water always gets the aeration treatment. Cooling is the slow part. A kettle of boiling water takes hours to reach room temperature naturally. Setting it outside speeds things up in winter, but attracts insects in summer. Most families pour boiled water into clean storage containers and cover them with cloth to keep out debris while air can still circulate. By evening, morning's boiled water is ready to drink. The amount boiled depends on family size and daily needs. A small household might boil 2 or 3 gallons daily. Larger families with many children could boil 10 gallons or more, which is still easier than explaining to 6 kids why they can't just drink straight from the barrel. The wood stove handles the workload without complaint as long as someone keeps feeding it fuel. Boiling works for any water source, not just rainwater. Creek water, pond water, even suspicious-looking puddle water becomes safe after a proper boil. This gives the Amish tremendous flexibility during emergencies. Storm damages the cistern, drought dries up the rain barrels, any water source becomes usable with heat and time. The method has one weakness. It doesn't remove chemicals or heavy metals. Lead, mercury, pesticides, these stay in the water no matter how long you boil it. Fortunately, rainwater collected from clean roofs contains virtually none of these contaminants. The Amish location in rural areas far from industrial pollution means their rainwater starts cleaner than city tap water in many cases. Wood fuel costs nothing beyond the labor of cutting and splitting it. Every Amish farm has woodland that provides endless firewood. Dead trees get harvested, split, and stacked to dry. Branches pruned from orchards become kindling. Nothing goes to waste, and the wood that heats the home also purifies the water. Its efficiency built into daily life. Boiling remains the gold standard because it requires no special equipment, no expensive filters, and no knowledge beyond heat water until it bubbles vigorously. Reliability like that matters when your family's health depends on safe drinking water every single day. Still, boiling every drop gets tedious, and the Amish developed another filtering method that does heavy lifting before the kettle even gets involved. Take a wooden barrel, fill it with layers of sand, gravel, and stones in the right order. Pour dirty water in the top and wait. What comes out the bottom runs clear enough to drink straight. The Amish figured out centuries ago that nature's own filtering materials work better than anything manufactured in a factory. Building one starts with selecting the right barrel. A 55-gallon drum works perfectly. Those smaller barrels function fine for single families. Drill a hole near the bottom and install a simple spigot. That's where the filtered water exits. The top stays open to receive water that needs cleaning. The layering follows a specific pattern that matters tremendously. Largest materials go at the bottom. Start with fist-sized rocks that create space for water to collect without blocking the spigot. Add a layer of gravel above that, stones roughly the size of marbles. Then comes coarse sand, the type used in construction. Finally, top it off with fine sand that looks almost like powder. Each layer is typically 4 to 6 inches thick. Water poured into the top must pass through every layer to reach the spigot. The fine sand catches the smallest particles first. Anything that makes it through hits the coarse sand layer, which grabs slightly larger debris. Gravel handles bigger chunks. The rocks at the bottom simply provide drainage, like a security system where you need to get past 4 locked doors just to steal a glass of water. The filtering happens slowly. Gravity pulls water downward, but those tight sand layers force it to work for every inch. A gallon might take 30 minutes to filter completely. For a family needing 5 gallons daily, that means starting the process well before the water is actually needed. Patience isn't optional here. What makes this system remarkable is its thoroughness. Sand filters remove up to 99% of bacteria and parasites from water. They catch sediment, algae, and organic matter. The water emerging from the spigot looks crystal clear and tastes clean. It's not quite as safe as boiled water, but it's drastically better than unfiltered rainwater straight from the barrel. The filter improves with use rather than degrading. During the first few days, filtered water might still carry a slight cloudiness. After a week of regular use, a biological layer develops on the sand surface. Beneficial bacteria colonize the top layer and actively consume harmful microorganisms in the water passing through. This living filter becomes more effective the longer it operates. Maintenance involves 2 simple tasks. Every few months, remove the top inch of sand that has accumulated trapped debris. Rinse it thoroughly in clean water, then return it to the barrel. If water flow slows to a trickle, the sand has become too compacted. Remove it, rinse it, and return it in a looser arrangement. The whole process takes maybe an hour. Multiple families often share a single large sand filter. A barrel handling 5 gallons an hour can supply several households if everyone coordinates their collection times. This makes the system practical even for communities with limited resources. One filter, many beneficiaries. The materials cost almost nothing. Sand comes from creek beds or construction sites. Gravel fills driveways everywhere. Rocks litter farm fields and need removing anyway. The barrel might be the only purchased item, and even those can be acquired used from businesses that discard them. Total investment rarely exceeds $20. Temperature doesn't affect performance. Winter cold might slow the flow slightly, but doesn't stop it. Summer heat has no impact at all since the water stays shaded inside the barrel. The system works identically in January and July, providing consistent results year-round. Some families run their sand-filtered water through cloth one more time before drinking it. Others boil it despite the filtering. The cautious approach stacks multiple purification methods to eliminate any remaining risk. Belt and suspenders philosophy, except for water instead of pants falling down. But even without additional treatment, sand-filtered rainwater surpasses the quality of many rural well systems that haven't been tested in decades. The Amish don't just filter water through minerals, though. They also discovered that certain metals naturally purify water while it sits, and one particular metal works better than all the others. Copper kills bacteria. Not eventually, not maybe, definitely and quickly. Scientists call it the oligodynamic effect, a fancy term meaning tiny amounts of copper ions destroy microorganisms on contact. The Amish don't know the scientific name, but they've known about copper's purifying power for generations. A family keeps a copper jug or pot in the kitchen specifically for drinking water. These vessels hold anywhere from 1 to 5 gallons, depending on size. Water gets poured in during the evening and left overnight. By morning, that water tastes noticeably better and carries far fewer bacteria than when it went in. The copper doesn't just sit there looking pretty, it actively releases ions into the water at a slow, steady rate. These ions puncture bacterial cell walls and disrupt their internal processes. Within hours, bacterial counts drop significantly. After 16 hours, the water contains up to 99% fewer living bacteria than it started with. Copper is basically a microscopic assassin that works the night shift. The taste improvement surprises people who try it for the first time. Rainwater can taste flat or slightly metallic depending on what it picked up from the roof. Copper somehow balances the flavor, removing off tastes and adding a subtle smoothness. The water doesn't taste like copper, it just tastes cleaner and more refreshing. Not all copper containers work equally well. Pure copper vessels provide the best results. Brass, which contains copper mixed with other metals, works but less effectively. Copper-plated containers barely work at all since the plating wears off quickly. The Amish prefer solid copper jugs that might cost more initially but last generations without losing effectiveness. The jugs need regular cleaning to maintain their purifying power. Copper develops a patina over time, a greenish layer that forms naturally when copper reacts with air and water. This patina is harmless but reduces the rate of ion release. Scrubbing the inside with salt and lemon juice removes the patina and restores the copper's full bacteria-killing ability. Monthly cleaning keeps the jug working at peak performance. Size matters for effectiveness. A thin copper cup doesn't hold enough water long enough for significant purification. A large copper pot with a gallon capacity gives the ions time to work throughout the entire volume. Surface area plays a role too. Water needs contact with copper to benefit from it, so wide, shallow vessels outperform tall, narrow ones. The amount of copper that leaches into water stays well below safety limits. Testing shows copper concentrations remain far lower than what causes health concerns. Humans actually need trace amounts of copper in their diet. The tiny amount picked up from storage provides a nutritional benefit rather than a risk. Finally, a metal that improves your health instead of triggering airport scanners. Families often combine copper storage with other purification methods. Water might get sand filtered, then stored in copper overnight, then boiled before drinking. This layered approach eliminates virtually all risks. Each method addresses different contaminants, and together they create water safer than what comes from many modern treatment plants. Copper jugs work for any water source, not just rainwater. Creek water, cistern water, even previously boiled water benefits from copper storage. The Amish use copper as their final quality boost before water reaches drinking glasses. It's insurance against anything that might have survived earlier treatment steps. The tradition of copper water vessels stretches back thousands of years across multiple cultures. Ancient civilizations stored water in copper pots without understanding why it worked. Modern science confirmed what practical experience already knew. The Amish simply continued a practice that never stopped working. But copper isn't the only traditional additive they trust for water treatment. Another substance from the farm itself offers surprising purification benefits. Wood ash sits in a bucket beside the stove after every fire. Most people toss it in the garden without a second thought. The Amish do that too, but they also save some for water treatment. That gray powder left after burning logs contains minerals that neutralize bacteria and balance water chemistry in ways that surprise modern scientists. The ash must come from clean wood only. Treated lumber, painted boards, or anything with chemicals burns toxic and ruins the ash for water use. Hardwood ash from oak, maple, or hickory works best. The fire needs to burn completely until only fine gray powder remains. Any chunks of unburned wood get removed and discarded. Adding ash to water requires careful measurement. Too little does nothing useful. Too much makes the water taste terrible and upset stomachs. The correct amount is roughly 1 teaspoon of ash per gallon of water. Stir it thoroughly and let it settle for several hours. The ash sinks to the bottom, taking suspended particles with it. The clear water on top gets carefully poured off into a clean container. What happens during those settling hours is chemistry at work. Wood ash contains potassium carbonate, which raises the water's pH level. Bacteria thrive in neutral or slightly acidic conditions. Raising the pH creates an environment where many harmful microorganisms struggle to survive. Bacteria apparently prefer their water like bad coffee, slightly acidic and questionable. The alkaline environment doesn't kill everything, but it significantly reduces bacterial growth. Crushed limestone serves a similar purpose, but works through different chemistry. The Amish grind limestone into powder using simple hand mills. A pinch of this powder per gallon adds calcium and magnesium while also adjusting pH. These minerals improve the taste of soft rainwater, which often lacks the mineral content that makes spring water taste crisp and refreshing. The combination of lime and ash creates particularly effective treatment. Ash provides immediate pH adjustment and helps particles clump together for easier settling. Lime adds lasting mineral content that keeps bacteria suppressed even after the initial treatment. Together, they transform flat-tasting rainwater into something that actually tastes pleasant to drink. Timing matters for this treatment. Water treated in the morning sits all day before evening use. Overnight treatment provides water ready for breakfast. The longer settling time allows more complete particle removal and gives the pH adjustment time to work throughout the entire water volume. Rushing the process leaves cloudy water that still carries contaminants. The settled ash at the bottom of the container holds concentrated impurities. Never drink this sludge or use it for cooking. Pour it into the garden where plants benefit from the minerals. Tomatoes especially love wood ash for its potassium content. At least something good comes from all that sitting around at the bottom doing nothing. Not every batch of rainwater needs ash treatment. Water that's been sand filtered and stored in copper already carries low bacterial counts. Ash treatment works best for water that skipped other purification steps or came from questionable sources. The Amish evaluate each water source and apply treatments accordingly rather than following rigid rules. The ash bucket never runs empty on an Amish farm. Wood stoves burn daily for cooking and heating. Every fire produces more ash than needed for water treatment. The surplus goes to multiple uses: garden fertilizer, soap-making ingredient, and even chicken coop bedding. Nothing gets wasted when it serves multiple purposes. Modern water treatment plants use similar chemistry with fancy equipment and precise measurements. The Amish achieve comparable results with materials their ancestors used centuries ago. The principles remain identical even if the technology differs. Raising pH, adding minerals, settling particles, these fundamentals of water purification don't change regardless of whether you're using a laboratory or a kitchen bucket. Some families prefer lime treatment while others swear by ash. Many use both depending on what's available and the water's starting condition. The flexibility lets them adapt to circumstances rather than depending on a single method that might not always be practical. But even with all these individual efforts, the Amish understand that water security sometimes requires help beyond the family level. A drought settles over the county for the third consecutive month. Wells drop to worrying levels, streams slow to trickles. Individual families watch their cisterns drain lower each week. This is exactly when Amish communities prove their greatest strength isn't their water systems, but their willingness to share them. Every Amish church building includes a large cistern, often much bigger than what individual families maintain. These community cisterns collect rainwater from the church's expansive roof and store it specifically for emergencies. During normal times, the cistern stays full and largely untouched. When drought hits, it becomes a lifeline for families whose own supplies run dangerously low. The church cistern isn't locked or restricted. Any family can take what they need without asking permission or filling out paperwork. A father shows up with empty barrels on his wagon. He fills them from the church cistern and heads home. Nobody tracks who took how much. Nobody sends a bill later. The community resource exists to serve the community, period. Schools operate under the same principle. The schoolhouse cistern supplies water for children during the day, but also serves nearby families during dry spells. Teachers and parents coordinate, so water collection happens after school hours when children won't be disrupted. Though watching the teacher haul water probably teaches better life lessons than most textbooks anyway. Families help each other directly too. A household with a particularly large cistern might supply water to 3 or 4 neighboring families throughout a drought. The understanding goes unspoken. Today, your cistern is full and mine is empty, so you help me. Next year, the situation reverses, and I help you. Nobody keeps score because keeping score defeats the purpose of community. Some families specialize in water management and maintain extra large storage specifically to help others. These households become known throughout the community as reliable sources during shortages. They don't charge for the water or expect payment. Their compensation comes in the form of help with other tasks: barn building, harvest work, equipment repairs. The economy runs on mutual aid rather than currency. Trading water like any other resource makes perfect sense in this context. A family low on water but rich in vegetables might trade their produce for access to a neighbor's cistern. Another family trades fresh milk or eggs. The barter system ensures everyone gets what they need without money changing hands. Beats paying a water bill that's calculated by some formula nobody understands anyway. Community workdays sometimes focus specifically on water infrastructure. Men gather to dig a new cistern for a family whose old one cracked. Women organize to clean and repair the church cistern before summer. Young people haul barrels and refill storage for elderly community members who can't manage the physical work anymore. These efforts keep the entire community's water systems functioning at peak capacity. The social pressure to share works powerfully here. A family that hoards water while neighbors struggle would face serious social consequences. Not shunning exactly, but definite disapproval that makes life uncomfortable. Community standing matters tremendously in Amish society. Nobody risks their reputation by being stingy with resources, especially something as essential as water. During extreme droughts, communities coordinate water use across multiple church districts. A district with better rainfall shares with districts hit harder. Wagons carry full barrels from areas with surplus to areas with shortage. The geographic distribution spreads risk. Rarely does drought affect every district equally, so pooling resources protects everyone. This communal approach to water security provides backup that no individual family could achieve alone. A single cistern might fail. A family's roof collection might fall short. But the combined resources of dozens of families create redundancy that survives even severe droughts. The system works because everyone contributes during good times and everyone benefits during bad times. The Amish learned generations ago that surviving without modern infrastructure requires cooperation that goes beyond casual neighborliness. Water security, like barn building or harvest, succeeds through collective effort. The techniques for collecting and purifying rainwater matter greatly, but the willingness to share those resources matters even more.